I'm Scott Alpert, a co-founder of Garrett Space, which is an Ann Arbor-based suicide prevention nonprofit. Garrett Space is under contract to purchase...
Need to be quiet.
7 parcels located at 3900 North Dixboro Road. We're here seeking approval of our area plan application and our rezoning application to a planned community special district for our use of the site as a new healing space for young adults struggling with depression and anxiety. We were very pleased that the Township's Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of our applications, and we hope the board concurs with their findings and votes to approve our applications. It's disappointing for me to have to say this, but a group of neighbors opposed to Garrett Space has been fear-mongering and spreading misinformation about our center in a postcard campaign. To anyone who is here today, in response to that, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you heard all of the public comment about how badly needed Garrett Space is. And we're also going to show you today why we believe we're far and away the best option for preserving the rural character of this property. Our son Garrett died by suicide almost 6 years ago when he was 23. When he struggled, my wife Julie and I didn't know where to turn for help. We couldn't find effective supplemental support options that we believe could have made a lasting difference for him, or that he would have wanted to try. We created Garrett Space to help fill this huge void in our healthcare system. Garrett was incredible in so many ways. He was talented, smart, and funny. He was a great poet. He made it to the finals of the local area high school poetry slam competition. He was one of the top tennis players in the state of Michigan for his class. He holds the record for most wins in #1 singles at Pioneer High School. But our fondest recollections of Garrett do not relate to his many achievements. Instead, we cling to our memories of the type of person he was, his kindness, his warmth, and his big heart. Garrett struggled despite everything he had going for him in what has become an increasingly hard world for this population. At the end, he felt alone in his struggles. Even though he had great friends and a family who adored him, eventually he lost hope. Julie and I thought about those things we believe would have helped Garrett the most. It began with being in a healing and supportive environment with others, going through similar challenges, and helping him see that he was not alone. Since Garrett passed away in 2017, the mental health of young people across the country and in our community has worsened significantly. Young people are feeling isolated and alone, and are seeing others' best and unattainable lives portrayed in social media. The statistics are staggering. Survey after survey show that more than half of teens and young adults nationally are struggling with depression and anxiety, and a significant percentage, anywhere from 15 to 25%, are actually contemplating taking their own life. This is just as true in our own community. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34 in our state. In our county, the number of mental health crisis calls involving young people this year is up 20% year over year. Here's another alarming statistic. Less than half of young adults with mental illness received treatment in 2021. We believe this last statistic reflects, at least in part, the lack of sufficient accessible, inviting support actions for this population. Julie and I now are frequently on the receiving end of calls from parents in the same position we were several years ago, pleading to us for advice, not knowing where to turn for help. So with the guidance of an unparalleled team of mental health experts and other professionals and years of planning and research, we've created a model of care we believe could have made a difference for our son, and that we're confident will do so in the future for thousands of young adults. Our model is based on what young people need most right now: connections, improved self-worth, coping strategies to get through challenging times, and hope that things can get better. Many young adults feel inadequate, or lonely, or like they just don't fit in. Some are in their first romantic relationship, which when that ends can feel like a death to a young adult. A Garrett Space team interviewed directors at many of the top residential facilities across the country. With their help, we learned what did not work for them, and we're planning to incorporate their best practices. Our model setting is critical. Rather than a traditional, sterile, institutional environment that holds stigma and trauma, It's crucial that our space be immersed in nature and its healing properties, a place where young adults can reset and feel like they can let their guard down and just exhale. During 3 to 4 week stays, our guests will be surrounded by a warm community of peers and caring staff and participate in facilitated support groups with other young adults and engage in mood-lifting activities like yoga, cooking, art, gardening, music, journaling, and exercise. The shorter stays make our model more realistic to attend than existing mental health facilities. Many of these facilities are designed to treat people with serious psychiatric disorders. Most require stays of 6 months to a year and are prohibitively expensive for the average family. Our model lets our guests continue to see their regular therapists via telehealth and get away for a period of time that's not nearly as disruptive. It's also much more affordable since the stays are shorter. We understand we won't be able to completely fix the mental health challenges of our guests during their stays with us, but we believe we can put them on a path towards seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And we'll continue to support them after they've completed their stay by connecting them with other resources and by giving them the opportunity to participate in our day programming or our virtual groups, which we plan to continue after our center is built. Julie and I also understand the importance of helping families and allies of our guests who are in need of guidance. And we plan on providing that help at the center. Numbers-wise, we're planning for 15 to 20 young adults between the ages of 18 and 28 who will attend our residential programming, and an additional 10 who will come for day programming. This will not be a medical facility, it will not have the look or feel of a medical facility, and it will not be licensed as one. However, we will have licensed clinicians designing, implementing, and supervising our programming, screening our potential participants, assessing our guests on an ongoing basis, and supervising our other direct care staff. The attorney representing the group opposing Garrett Space asserted at the last hearing that our proposed center is akin to a medical facility or a commercial enterprise, and that it belongs in a zoning district established for hospitals and commercial businesses. These labels completely miss the point of Garrett Space and how we help young adults. At its core, Garrett Space is a warm, supportive community and place of healing and connection. Immersing young adults in this property's peaceful, rural setting is integral to putting our guests at ease and helping them be fully open to receiving connections and other support. Relegating Garrett Space to a medical complex or commercial district would force our guests to miss out on these critical benefits and reflects a desire to treat anxiety and depression with a traditional institutional approach that holds little appeal to many young adults. We call this statistic. We need fewer barriers to receiving help and more options that are attractive to young people. The opposing group's characterization of Garrett Space as a commercial institutional development is false and offensive. Julie and I and our amazing team of volunteers all have the same goals: to improve the mental health of young adults and help save lives. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. No investor or shareholder is benefiting from Garrett Space. Julie and I personally have been working 60 to 80 hours a week for the past several years for no compensation and will never take a penny. Now I'll address the plans for our campus. The property already has a warm and inviting 5,000 square foot house located near the center of the site, which we plan to use for administrative offices and some small group activities. We plan to build 2 main structures immediately south of the house. The first is an 11,000 to 12,000 square foot residential center with bedrooms for 20 young adults, along with large and cozy spaces, including a library, meeting rooms and social areas, spaces for telehealth and dining, and a fitness area. The second is a 2,000 square foot creativity studio for activities like dance, yoga, art, and music. Finally, we're considering adding in a later phase therapeutic animals and a small barn which would be located farther south on the campus. If our use and rezoning are approved, we plan to offer day programming at the existing house this year after making any appropriate modifications. We would commence construction of the 2 main structures after we receive final site plan approval in late spring or early summer of next year. And then we expect to complete construction of our new spaces in early 2026 and provide day programming for about a year before beginning overnight stays in 2027. The group opposing our support option has tried to stoke doubt and uncertainty regarding our model. We have significant research supporting the efficacy of our planned modalities, including studies supporting the beneficial impacts of being in nature, group support, yoga, exercise, art, and music. We're also targeting two very well-documented factors, connections and coping strategies that, when missing, can present as a risk for suicide, and if bolstered, are protective against suicide. Our mission and programming are dedicated to targeting these factors. There's no difference of opinion among the people who should know, the mental health experts, about whether our model will work or whether it's necessary. We're in extremely capable hands. Here are the members of our advisory council and board of directors who are assisting with our efforts. And here are some of the government officials and agencies, nonprofits, and leading mental health and public health experts in our area who've taken the time to send letters in support of the establishment of our center, and have strongly endorsed the need for this new option. This includes the entire bipartisan state delegation of elected representatives that touch our county. It also includes our county health department, our county community mental health organization, numerous nonprofits that work with our area youth, and a stunning group of leaders in Michigan Medicine and Trinity Health and the entire CAPS department at EMU. A few months ago, we were awarded $4 million by the federal government to build this space. This award was secured by Congresswoman Dingell and supported by Senator Stabenow. Last year, even before announcing the possible acquisition of this property and our federal award money, we were able to raise over $800,000 to support our work. Yet another data point that shows how our mission and model are resonating with others and why our center will be sustainable. Going forward, our operations will be funded by a combination of philanthropy, private pay, and grants, and we'll also be pursuing insurance reimbursement. Our private pay model will be on a sliding scale. All young adults will have an opportunity to attend our residential and day program, regardless of their ability to pay. The data points around our current programming bode extremely well for our expanded model of support at the center. We've been operating wellness groups for 2 years, where our participants meet virtually for a facilitated support group with peers, movement and breathing exercises, and a monthly in-person gathering. We've been able to provide this important support option to young adults free of charge for the past 2 years, in line with our nonprofit mission, something commercial entities don't do. Currently, we have 28 young adults enrolled. Since the beginning of this year, we've had 46 inquiries on behalf of young adults to join. The feedback we're receiving from our participants is extremely positive and gratifying. We're making a difference in their lives. Here's the geographic and age distribution of our participants. You can see that they're coming from Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and surrounding areas. The group opposing Garrett Space in our support option claims we pose a risk because our center will be unlicensed. First, let's be clear. If we were licensed, the group would be saying we should be located in a medical district. The argument that we're unlicensed is a red herring and just another excuse to try to block Garrett Space. The state does not offer or require licensure for the level of services we'll be providing. While our guests have mental health issues that make them unable to function at the high level they're generally capable of, they're not so limited that they need personal care or assistance in the activities of daily living. That's what differentiates Garrett Space from licensed facilities in our state, like hospitals, nursing homes, and adult care facilities. It's not unusual for operations that provide healthcare services to be unlicensed in Michigan. Examples include physician offices and urgent care centers. Most residential assisted living facilities do not trigger licensing requirements, and they tend to provide a much higher level of services than what will be needed for the young adults who will be staying at our center. The important point to remember is that we'll have licensed clinicians designing, supervising, and running our programming. We'll also have an internal oversight board comprised of mental health experts that will meet frequently to ensure that we provide the level of care and supervision required to protect our population. I'm now going to ask our clinical director, Peggy Gallen-Birdie, to speak about our programming. Peggy is a licensed clinician who previously was the program director for the past decade at Ellie's Place.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. As Scott said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have been working in this community for over 25 years in a variety of settings. Okay, so you have up there who we will serve. I know you have had the opportunity already to review this. I'm not going to go point by point due to time. We are meant to be a supplemental option for individuals who have previously received treatment and currently are receiving treatment. We will not be serving people who this is the first time for them to receive mental health support. They will have had former or current treatment. Garrett Space is meant to be part of a continuum of care, not formal treatment, but providing support and connection. The young people that we already serve and will continue to serve are those listed above. The groups are all co-facilitated by a licensed mental health professional. Already, currently, we do that in our groups and will continue to have licensed providers. Our goals are to build that toolbox of coping skills for the young adults to use when they're not at Garrett Space, after they have left. The peer support is so very valuable, again, to decrease that isolation and build the connection that our young adults need, really, that we all need. We will be teaching skills to calm the nervous system and decrease anxiety. Again, these are skills that we can all use. Our overall goal is to help them develop hope for the future. Hope is what keeps people going on tough days. Hope can come from feeling seen, heard, and understand, and from being part of a community. We will not serve any young adult who is in need of court-ordered or involuntary treatment program or any of the other criteria listed above. We have a screening process. It has been developed by mental health professionals and a team of experienced medical and mental health providers. We are committed to creating a safe space for our staff, our participants, and thus for the community. Those in need of a higher level of care will be referred on to that higher level of care to ensure safety for all. For our referral and intake, participants will be assessed by referring healthcare professionals as listed up there. Young people are also able to self-refer or be referred by their families. Those young adults will also be assessed by our mental health professionals as part of the referral process. They are coming to us voluntarily, and they are coming for support and connection. They will complete intake documents, and we will gather background information from them. We will also get from each young adult a release of information to communicate with their treating clinician and or family members to gather collateral information to assess for safety and the fit for our program. Again, they have already been assessed, all of them, prior to coming to us. We recognize that feelings shift and change over time. That has been pointed out. That's true in all of our lives as well. The work that we do is all about relationships. We pride ourselves on building strong, positive relationships with our participants, and we assess them regularly on a daily basis and constantly about how they're doing. We will, and already do, refer participants for a higher level of care if there is ever a need to do so. Finally, this word cloud was created in our group recently. The prompt that we offered was simply, what words come to mind when you think of Garrett Space? If you have ever done a word cloud, you see that the largest words are the ones that popped up the most often. Safe, love, and support are very powerful statements to the work that we do. I really want to say that these are the kindest, most compassionate humans that I have worked with in my 25+ years in this field. I am truly humbled each and every week by the connection that I see and the care and love that they show to one another. Thank you for considering.
I'll now invite our architect, David Saladick with Mass Design, to speak.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you. David Saladick, I'm the principal with Mass Design Group. We're serving as the architect, so I'll speak very briefly tonight about the site plan and the character of the architecture, which to serve Garrett Space's mission will be warm, welcoming, home-like. It'll be beautiful, and importantly, it'll be accessible and trauma-informed. The design will enhance the site's natural beauty by creating buildings that are in line with the traditional residential size and shape. We are planning 2-story structures with gabled roofs and natural material palettes that are carefully nestled into the existing landscape to preserve the site. Interior spaces will be designed to optimize natural light and views to the landscape, and will include spaces for a range of restorative activities that Scott has already touched on. Key campus buildings, there are 2 of them. I want to point them out here. One is the guest residence with 20 bedrooms, and the other is the creativity studio for recreation, movement, and arts. Just to give you a sense of the campus, this is the view of the great room, the living room of that residence hall. To support these buildings, there will be some parking on campus, but we are designing that to be as sustainable as possible, integrating landscape and utilizing permeable pavement wherever appropriate to reduce stormwater runoff. We will only be providing minimal down-facing lighting for safety, and we will use natural screening like the tree canopy and landscape that you see here to ensure that that parking is hidden both from Garrett Space's guests and, more importantly, the surrounding neighbors. Currently, we are targeting a developable area of maximum 10 acres, shown here in green at the center of the site. Notice that this area includes the existing house and existing roadways, so the actual area of development is far, far less than that. That is allowing us to preserve the remaining 66 acres of the site, and Garrett Space has committed to establishing a conservation easement of between 55 and 60 acres. I believe a formal plan for that of around 58 acres has been shared for review. So as a result, new construction is consolidated next to that existing house to create a heart for Garrett Space campus where outdoor activities will occur. So this places new construction as far away from the site edge and surrounding neighbors as possible to maximize their privacy and distance from their developments. So I just want to point out some important distances here. So for the neighbors from the northwest and the northeast, the site, new construction is more than 900 feet from their homes. It's more than 3 football fields in length. And in between, there's thick forest with dense tree canopy that minimizes visibility to the neighbors and will act as an acoustical barrier to minimize or eliminate any sound coming from the campus. Here's a view of some of that property. Regarding the visual impact of the project, from the existing house, we don't have any views of residential development surrounding us. These views are from January with no leaves on the trees, just to see what we could see. This is a view to the Fleming Ridge development behind the trees, a view to the Wing Drive development also behind the trees, and another view to the Warren Road homes. Now, I can't say what the neighbors can see, but I do strongly believe that visual impact to their properties will be minimal at best. Just to give you a sense of that, and I'll end here, this is a view, an aerial view from the Fleming Ridge development, and I just want to point out that all the new construction is happening behind the existing buildings, and we really are thinking carefully about how to maximize the privacy and maintain the beautiful views that the neighbors have in this development. So, thank you very much.
Thanks. So, although, as David pointed out, we are also far away from the home to the southeast, there is visibility to the new structures, and we're working with them to plant trees, privacy trees, between the properties, and we'll continue to work with them as we have been to address any other concerns. I want to reiterate that the Planning Commission found that the impacts of our use upon adjacent properties are negligible. If our rezoning isn't approved, the owner of the property has indicated she will move quickly to find an alternative buyer or develop the property herself to maximize the existing 76 acres for single-family residential use. We're a significantly better alternative than a likely buyer or successor for preserving the existing habitats and ecosystems of the site, as well as the Fleming Creek tributary. In addition to the recommendation for approval by the Township's Planning Commission and Planning Consultant, our proposed use and plans for the property have been endorsed by the Huron River Watershed Council and the Township's Parks and Recreation Commission. Candace Breyer, with our civil engineering consultant, Midwestern Consulting, will now walk you through a more in-depth comparison of our footprint versus the alternative of a residential development.
Thanks, Scott. As you mentioned, my name is Candace Breyer with Midwestern Consulting. I'm a senior land planner and project manager with the Civil Engineering Consultants. We've been involved with a lot of aspects of this property, and as part of the design process, we wanted to look at how the Garrett Space project compared to what a single-family development might look like on this site. So this graphic here shows essentially the Garrett Space project with a number of metrics that you could compare to a residential development. So the number of people, the number of vehicle trips, wastewater, stormwater, open space, those kinds of things. This next slide is an application of the zoning code for what would be a typical single-family residential development utilizing A2 or R1 zoning, which allows for 2-acre lots. We understand that for the master plan, there could be an opportunity for single-family development of up to 1 dwelling unit per acre, which would be over 70 homes, but we feel this would be disingenuous due to the extensive regulated natural features on the site. So in this study, we looked at a typical development with 2-acre lots, and this shows 34 lots, 34 homes on this parcel. We've estimated that with this concept, the single-family development could be built utilizing a site condominium or a typical subdivision plat option, both of which could be pursued under the current ordinance. So this next slide, you can kind of see an enlarged view of the metrics, comparing obviously 1 lot for Garrett Space versus 34 residential units. A population for Garrett Space, including all of the overnight guests, day guests, and staff of roughly 50 people, compared to a population of 89 people for a residential development utilizing current SEMCOG data based on number of people per household. Vehicle trips, we're looking at approximately 186 for Garrett Space versus 374 for the residential development. Wastewater drain fields, 16,000 square feet for Garrett Space compared to 136,000, assuming 4-bedroom homes on the 34 lots. 3 wells for Garrett Space compared to 34 wells for the residential use. Stormwater management, we would need roughly 115,000 cubic feet of volume for detention storage based on the proposed, and residential development, you'd be looking at roughly 550,000 cubic feet. And then with regard to open space, as David mentioned, we're looking at providing a conservation easement at Garrett Space, as well as roughly 70 acres of open space, and the residential development doesn't provide that same area. So you can see, based on these comparison points, that there's a number of items, or a number of reasons why we think that Garrett Space would be much less intensive of a use than a typical single-family residential development. In fact, the Planning Commission noted at their April 26th meeting in one of their findings of fact that the low-intensity use of the site compared to other permitted and conditional uses here is consistent in density and character with the existing residences and neighborhoods in the immediate area. Thank you.
I'll now ask Chairman Fisher, our counsel, to say a few words.
Good evening, Supervisor Schwartz, members of the Township Board. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's my privilege to be here on behalf of the Garrett Space. Gerald Fisher, Fisher Consulting, a statewide land use and zoning lawyer, and have been engaged in practice for far too long. This is a very, very beautiful township, and it's clear from me, from my analysis, that the Planning Commission and the Board have taken great care in drafting a zoning ordinance and master plan to protect the area of the township. And I just want to hit very few highlights, just 3 or 4 slides, on how Garrett Space will contribute to that beautiful township, and how Garrett Space complies fully with the master plan and zoning ordinance. In other words, it's, as suggested earlier, this is not going to require an amendment of the master plan or zoning ordinance. This is, I mean, it's a rezoning, but it's a rezoning in accordance with the master plan and zoning ordinance. So the intent of the zoning ordinance and master plan. This is a rural residential project, 76 acres with only 10 acres actively developed. The Planning Commission finding on that is that the area plan maintains the character of the site and the immediate area. The development preserves natural resources, surface water, wetlands, green spaces, steep slopes, and tree-lined roads. All the things that you could find in the growth management plan. And the Planning Commission's finding was this proposed development meets the master plan and growth management standards of sustainability, maintenance of the natural resources, and reduction in visual impacts. The proposed use is compatible and harmonious. In other words, it meets the eligibility of the zoning ordinance and growth management plan for approval by the board. The Planning Commission found that as restricted in the zoning and land use agreement, the project is compatible with the growth management plan and harmonious and compatible with and not injurious or objectionable to existing and future uses in the immediate area. It's consistent with surrounding density and character. The low intensity use of the site achieves that along with the 700 foot plus buffers. I won't dwell on that. In terms of state and national housing policy, the basic concept is that, and since the 1970s and 80s, that residences for people with disabilities should be in mainstream neighborhoods and not in high-intensity institutions and other high-intensity areas. The master plan of this township recognizes that rural landscape does more than simply provide scenery, as the benefits of nature to citizen mental health are recognized as very important. Finally, in the final analysis here, this is the best of all worlds. It provides needed housing. It provides, it's located in mainstream residential areas consistent with state and federal policy. It preserves natural resources and natural features, and it's compatible and harmonious. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask Julie Albert, my wife, to make final comments.
I'll be quick. I know you're getting very tired, and I understand. Yesterday marked the 6th Mother's Day without my son. It's so terribly hard to accept the fact that we could not save Garrett. But Scott and I made a pledge to honor him and the way he lived a life of helping others. We don't want others to suffer this unbearable loss. If you look around the young adults in this room and beyond, many of them, as you know, are struggling with their mental health. It's likely that a young adult close to you is struggling and you just don't know it. These are your children, your grandchildren, your friends and colleagues' children. And if you're the parent of a baby or a toddler or a teen, chances are, given the state of this world, that they too will struggle as they enter adulthood. We need Garrett space, and we need it here in Superior Township. For the many reasons we've discussed today, this private and healing property is the perfect home for our center. We're bringing a critical resource to your community, and we know we'll be a great neighbor to all who live here. We hope to create, if approved, a stakeholder committee and have a neighborhood representation on that committee. We request that you approve our use so that many young adults who are struggling in the township and the surrounding area have this place of refuge and hope. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Let's take that